Hello, everyone. Okay, I'm just making sure everything is going great. How are y'all doing? It is Monday morning, and I'm off to a bit of a slow start, but I'm so excited to be here. My apologies for not being here last week. Life is life. But if you needed a fix, if you need more content from me, I invite you to join me on Instagram because I've been going live quite frequently, and I believe I went live last Monday. So you should definitely go and watch that. But we are going to get into um, 10 ways to be successful, no, 10 ways to be productive in your dissertation. That was the original title. If you are watching, you're joining me live, say hey. Say hey, say hi. Like my mama taught me, you speak when you enter rooms. So make sure y'all say hi. I'm gonna just get into it. But before I do that, if you are just finding this because you're just on YouTube or you saw this somewhere else, I am Dr. Marvette Lacy. I work with doctoral students to write their dissertations in 12 months or less by following a very simple, easy 10-hour writing routine. I have over 50 doctors done to prove it. And I am going after 100 doctors. And, after the inspiration from the queen herself, Beyonce, I think I'm moving the deadline up. Originally, it was 100 doctors by 2030. And I think 2024 is that year. But that's not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about 10 ways to know you're being productive. But I just said that to say if you want to join the movement, you want to be one in the number, join the Qual Scholars family. You can do that by joining our free community. The link is definitely down below. And if you're watching this in the community, hey, how you doing? All right. Number one, I feel like we need to start here. That the way that you know you're being productive in the dissertation is if you are actively in this moment, are you actively working in and on your dissertation? I'm gonna break that down right now. Are you working in and on your dissertation? A lot of times people focus on the working in their dissertation. What I mean by that is that you're focused on executing the individual or technical tasks that need to get done. So think like, excuse me, writing a literature review or collecting data or analyzing the data. Like those are examples of you working in the dissertation because you're doing the step by step or the technical strategy things that need to get done, right? When you're working on your dissertation, what you're doing is more of the planning, more of the outside work, more like the administrative work. So when you're working on the dissertation, you're setting yourself up a like, what does my timeline look like? What are all the moving pieces? Think more like a project manager. Most people, most programs do not separate the two. And I see this so often that maybe you can relate to this. You were working on your proposal, you submitted for IRB, you got the IRB back, and you're like, okay, I get it that I'm free to go collect data, but how do I collect that data? Where do I start? Do I start with this piece first? Do I start this? How long do I have to collect the data? How long do I have to analyze that? All of those are questions that you would solve for when you're working on the dissertation, when you're planning. The in the dissertation is actually executing the interviews or the observations or whatever the data collection methods are. But you need time to do both and you need to be working actively on both in order to make the progress, especially in the timeline that you have set aside. Now, if you have questions about that, let me know because that is a bit different. Number two, you have set a graduation date, meaning you know the month, the maybe you know the day, but definitely you know the month and the year of when you're going to graduate. I like using graduation and not when the dissertation is completed because we need to know the entire picture. What is the month and the year that you're going to graduate? Is it May 2024? Is it August 2024? Is December 2024? Is it May 2025, August 2025, December 2025? Like, what is the month and the date, or excuse me, the month and the year that you're going to graduate? Now, I get it. You might be saying to yourself, like, I keep changing it. Well, it keeps changing every other week, or mm-mm. I need you to establish a date and it ain't changing. So if that means you have to give yourself, you got to humble yourself and give yourself extra time, then give yourself extra time. But nothing else matters if we don't know. what we're working towards. Your graduation date is what we're headed towards. And it doesn't matter how much more we plan if we don't know where we're going. Most of you will say, well, I don't want to commit to a date yet because I don't feel like I've made enough progress to get to that date. Do you get in your car and you go to your maps, whatever your app is? So like that's me going to my Apple Maps and being like, Siri, girl, I don't know where I want to go, but I do know, girl, at some point I'm gonna need some McDonald's fries. I'm gonna need a Starbucks. I don't know, green tea, peach green tea, lemonade. I'm gonna need a I need some stamps. I need to go get some stamps, right? Like you're saying all the things that you need. Are you gonna go tell your maps that? Or are you more likely to say, take me to the post office, take me to the Walgreens, take me to what did I say at first? Right. Like there's a physical location with an address that you're gonna put in the maps in the GPS, and then you're gonna get the step-by-step directions. Right. The physical address or the location you're going to is the same thing as your graduation date. So when you put that in the GPS, now it knows how to populate different alternative routes that you can go through, right? So if I like put that I want to go to Starbucks in my phone, it's going to say, well, this is the fastest way to get there. This is a way that's like kind of in the middle, but you might take the streets there, or this is a way that like, it's going to be long, but you can avoid all major highways, right? It's going to give me three options to choose from. And then I get to select which route I'm going to take, and then that'll tell me step by step what to do. The same is true for your dissertation. You need to know what your graduation date is because based on that date, then gives you options of, well, you can go this way, you can go this way, you can go this way, right? As someone who had to write their dissertation, not write their, who had to complete the entire dissertation in 2 months, right? The reason why I was able to do that is because I had a clear deadline. My chair told me that by March 6th of 2017, I needed to give her an entire dissertation. I didn't even get IRB approval until like January 1st or January 2nd, right? So that's where the 2 months come in at. But the reason why I was able to do it is because of like, okay, if I'm working towards March 6th, what are the ways to get from IRB approval to a completed dissertation in 2 months? So I took out a sheet of paper and just first I put March 6th. I did right. The graduation date would have been May. Let me take this back from my full analogy. The graduation date would have been May of 2017. My chair working backwards from that date then says you need to give me a completed draft of your dissertation by March 6th because we need a month to edit and go back and forth. And you have to, by the graduate school requirements, have successfully defended your dissertation. I think it was like April 25th or something, right? But because we knew that May was the graduation date, then we can work backwards, which she told me. But you get my point. My point is, all roads lead to graduation. So if you are not going to commit to a date, it's going to throw off your process. And if you have a whole like, well, I'll see it, I'll believe it when I see it mentality, you're gonna be waiting. You're just gonna be waiting. You're not gonna finish. Okay, it took me a long time to get there, but y'all with me, you my people. So number two is have a set graduation date. Number three, what are you going to accomplish in the next 12 weeks that is going to get you closer to that graduation date? I ask my clients to work in 12-week increments, right? 12 weeks is 3 months. So in the next 3 months, what do you need to accomplish? Think big picture, think like proposal, data collection and analysis, or writing or having an entire dissertation. Like think big rocks in that way over the next 3 months, right? So let's say you're starting from the beginning. In the next 3 months, you're going to have a full shitty draft of your dissertation proposal, right? Because we need 3 months to do the proposal. We need another 3 months to defend IRB, prepare for data collection. You need another 3 months for data collection and analysis. And then you need that final 3-month period to write up your final chapters, do the edits, and defend it. That is how I organize a 12-month dissertation. So if we're starting from the beginning, then because I have a clear in 12 months, you're going to graduate, then this first 3-month period is about you finishing your proposal. For some of you, your heart just dropped down to your stomach when I put it that way. because you think that 12 months is a lot of time. You think that if I have 12 months, then of course it's more than enough time to get done. No, 12 months is not a lot of time, especially when you're breaking it apart in that way. So for this first 3 month section, then you're going to work on your proposal or wherever you are. So, what are you going to accomplish over the next 12 weeks? And that brings us to number four. Now that we are clear about the overall direction we're going in, we got an idea of the route we're going to take. Now it's about what am I going to accomplish? What is one thing that I can accomplish by the end of this month or the 30 days that'll get me closer to finishing that proposal? I encourage my clients to finish a chapter a month. So we go back to you're working on a proposal. Let's start with the literature review. If you're going to finish a whole draft of the literature review in 30 days, some of you are further shitting yourself. I probably should stop doing that because Google does not like for you to swear. But right. But because we are putting dates on the calendar, now we know. So, what is something that you can do in the next 30 days that gets you 33% closer to finishing your overall 12-week goal? In my example, the 12-week goal is to write the proposal. So, then in the next 30 days, I'm going to write a shitty draft of the literature review. I have an entire program on how to break that down into 30-day process with a syllabus and day by day examples. But let's say you already have a model that you're going to use for your literature review. What do you need? Who do you need to be in order to write the literature review in 30 days? These are the type of questions you want to ask yourself as you're going through this. But this is how you know if you're being productive because you would have answers to these questions. Most of you just go and you try to read and you try to write with no plan. How we know we're being productive is we know where we're going, we know where we're headed, and we know what's required to get there. So number four is asking you, what are you gonna do by the end of a 30-day period that's gonna get you 33% closer to your goal? In this example, it's the literature review, which then brings us to number five. Now that I know what I'm doing for my overall goal to graduation, I know my 12-week plan, I know my 30-day goal. What do I need to do in the next 7 days that gets me closer to finishing my 30-day goal? Now our attention is no longer on graduation. Our attention is no longer on the 12 weeks. The attention is on what can we do in the here and the now to get us closer to our goal. When I put Starbucks into my GPS and then I select a route, you know what else? You know what I'm not thinking about? I'm not thinking about, well, what do I got to do? When is my next turn? No, I'm turning on Beyonce. I'm singing and I'm going to let the GPS tell me what to do. You doing this work right now, which is why I'm going so slowly through it. You doing this work is you putting the address in the GPS, you selecting your route, and you're trusting that it's going to tell you what to do turn by turn. Most of you do not trust your plan. You spend hours and days and weeks and years making a plan that you don't trust. And so it doesn't even give it a chance for it to work out. And you think that the level of detail that I'm going in right now, for some of you, you think it's too much. You don't need to do that. But it's that arrogance that is going to be the reason why you don't finish your dissertation in the timeline you want to finish it in. So, what is it that you need to do in the next 7 days that gets you closer to finishing your 30-day goal? So, if we go back to my example of the literature review, right? The first things that I ask people to do in the literature review course, I go, first, let's get very clear on what your topic is. So that's number one, a clear topic. Number two, what is the problem that you're solving? So a clear topic is who are the people you want to talk to? What is the problem they're experiencing and where they're experiencing the problem? Once you outline that, then it's like, okay, let's go deeper into the problem. What is the problem? Why is it a problem? What is currently being done to address the problem? Why are those things ineffective? What are you going to do differently? So that's number two. You would free write a shitty draft answering those five questions. After you free write that, your third thing is going to be to edit that shitty draft. Those would be the three things that I would ask you to do in your first week of writing a full literature review. Right? That is what I would ask this person. So, number five, using your own example, what do you need to do this week in the next 7 days? What do you need to do? When are you going to do it? And how do you need to do it over the next 7 days to get you closer to finishing that 30-day goal? If you need help answering that, come to the community. Number six, You know that you're being productive in your dissertation if you meet with your chair or your advisor or your supervisor, whatever language you use, if you're meeting with that person at least once a month. Let me say it again for those of you who got distracted. Come back to me. You are productive in your dissertation if you are meeting with your chair at least once a month. This is the person who is responsible for signing your paperwork. This is the person whose expectations you are working to meet. Most people think that there is a one size fit all type of expectations when it comes to the dissertation. No. Those expectations about the quality of your dissertation comes from your chair. Your chair is setting that tone. You're doing the work, you're choosing the topic, but the chair is like guiding you in terms of their job essentially is to teach you how to be a researcher. And they're going to teach you based on how they do research. So you need to know more about them as a researcher. You need to know more about what their expectations are around the research process, the writing process, the thinking process, and you need to meet with them at least once a month in order to learn that and to make sure that you're on the right track according to them. Because what I tell my clients is I am like a translator. I'm the middle person between you and your chair. I'm translating what they're asking you to do, and I'm helping provide you the step by step process for you to be able to meet their expectations. But in no way am I trying to replace your chair, trying to help you meet their like get their expectations because most people are not they don't know how to clearly articulate what it is that they are expecting from people. So that's why students come to work with me. But you, make sure you're talking to your chairs. Don't hide from them. Don't run from them. Force them to do their job. It's their job. So meet with them once a month. Number 7, do you submit something for feedback every week or every month? How you know you're being productive. Number 7 is that you are submitting something, I would argue, every week. But at a minimum, you're submitting something every month for feedback. It doesn't have to be to your chair, it doesn't have to be to a mentor, it doesn't have to be to a committee member. It can be to your homegirl. It could be to the writing group that you joined. It can be to a friend who not even in your field of study, but just loves like editing things. I like met a person like that before. I used to work with someone as a hall director. She's like, yeah, I just love editing books. Her idea of a good time was going into like a bookstore and looking at people's published works and editing it. Because if you've never really done that, there's a lot of typos and edit or published work. And she loves doing that. I'm like, girl, I wish I don't have that. But you need to submit something to someone that you feel comfortable with, but you like regular eyes on your work. The biggest thing that is the most helpful thing in a writing process rather is having someone to look at your work and to process your work with. It's not you're not getting a grade, no one's trying to judge you. If I like tear apart your writing, I'm tearing apart your writing. I'm not tearing apart you. And this is why I argue that most people need to get into a stronger rhythm of submitting their work for feedback is because you need to develop the muscle of separating who you are, your worth, your esteem, separating that from your writing. I tell people all the time, I will give my writing to someone and I'm like, if I don't get this back and there's not, you didn't tear it apart, I don't think do you love me? Go tear it apart because I have had so much practice of separating who I am, how I see myself from my writing. I know my writing does not determine if I'm deserving of love or respect. I'm deserving of those things because I'm here, because I'm human. You are deserving of those things because you exist, because you're breathing, because you're here. Your work is not a measurement for how much love and worthiness and care and like yeah, just care that you deserve. Your work is your work. You are deserving of all those things because you are. Okay, I'm gonna get off that soapbox because that was for somebody. But the reason why we want to give our writing to someone is because that's how we start to get very clear on what it is that we want to say and how we want to say it. Most people think, especially doctoral students, think that you have to have excuse me. Most people think that you have to have that in your mind already, like, you have to know what it is that you wanna say and how you wanna say it before you start writing. No, you get clear from the writing. Action leads to clarity. It's because you wrote a shitty draft. It's because you gave that shitty draft to someone that now you have enough brain space and energy to be like, yeah, I want to say that differently, or it should be rearranged. But you're trying to do all of that in your head right now, and you're overwhelmed, and now you're procrastinating, and now you're in like deep down in perfectionism, and it's all because you are afraid to just let the writing be shitty. It's why I use the language of shitty paragraph and shitty chapters, because I am trying to communicate to you that the clarity comes from you writing drafts that you think are shit, and then you give it to someone else, and the two of you have a conversation, or multiple of you have a conversation, and then you get to a place of like, oh, I really meant this, and so let me go write that. And then that is beautiful. You can stand by, you can feel confident in your writing. All right. Number 8, the 8th way to know that you're being productive in the dissertation is you have an accountability partner, a community, maybe even like a writing group. Like you have a place that you're going every week with other people who are doing what you're doing, how you're doing it. Let me say that last part again, that you are meeting with people, at least a person or people who are doing what you're doing, how you're doing it. The how you're doing it is important. You might be joining random Discord groups or random writing groups, or maybe you joined like a writing challenge of sorts. But are those people doing what you're doing? Are they in the same field or the same like adjacent field? Are they doing the same type of research? Because it could be really hard to be the qual person in a room in a writing group full of quant people. Y'all have two different experiences, two different type of research. And for my mixed methods friends, shout out to y'all. Right. But I would actually, for most of you, put you in a quant group. I don't got time to go off on a rant about it. But you might need to just be in a quant group. There's very few mixed methods folks who would be in the qual category, but again, like I said, that's a different conversation for a different time. Either way, you need to be around people who either look like you, come from where you come from, doing the type of work you're doing, but you need that as the person doing this work. We are humans. We are not meant to be by ourselves. Our survival, baby survival is based on the proximity to other humans. If you go too long without talking to someone, touching someone, being touched by someone in whatever way you want to be touched by them, if you go too long, you will start to have adverse health like impacts. Think about the pandemic. Think about how you felt, how people felt. We are still dealing with the impact of being alone, being in lockdown. The dissertation is not different. You need people. And you may not feel like you fit in with your program or that you have people in your physical location, but this is why I love digital communities. And this is why I created a digital community, because I was that student feeling like, I don't fit in with these people. I don't get it. I want people who work like I do. So I created it. So find you a community that you meet with at least once a week. Even if you don't feel like you're an extrovert, you need to be around the people. Your environment matters. Okay, I think we got it. Number 9 way that you know you're being productive is that you focus on your energy management over your like time management. People are like, I just need to get organized. I need to be more consistent. And so then you think you need to go buy a new planner, and you think you need the stickers and the deadlines. No, how do you energetically feel? Like your physical energy. Do you even have the energy to do the dissertation? Right? Like a lot of people will say like I have the time, but I just don't feel like, or I don't have motivation. That first begins with, do you have the physical energy? And then we can go into, do you have the emotional energy? This is why for me, time management is energy management, because I can do all the work to clean up my calendar and to organize the calendar and to make sure I give myself deadlines. But if I don't have the energy to show up to execute, it doesn't matter how organized my plan is if I can't do it. Energy management is time management. How are you taking care of yourself? I ask my clients to follow what we call the scholar basics. The scholar basics are just 5 things we do every day to take care of ourselves. Number 1, drinking water. You see my water off 64 ounces. It's 2 of these. 64 ounces. Number 2, go to sleep or rest for 7 hours a night. If you just do the water and the sleep, you will see a major improvement in how you're able to show up for yourself. Number 3, moving your body is the reason why I walk for an hour every day. I'm not doing that for like, I am doing it for, like, my muscles, but I'm mostly doing it for the clarity I bring. Like, I know the days that I don't walk for the hour, I'm all over the place. I can't focus. But when I walk for that hour, it just helps me to wake up, to get everything moving, to move the emotions around, for me to process the day before, the night before, and to set myself up for this day. Now you can walk, you can do meditation, you could do some stretching, but you need to do something to help move the body, get it going. Number 4, journaling for 10 minutes. I mean, like, not just your like, oh, today was great. I'm not talking about like Moesha style journaling. I'm talking about rage on the page. What are you angry about? What are you resentful towards? What is not fair? What do you wish was different? You rage on the page because all of that is circulating through your head, through your body, and you don't think it's going to come out when you start working on your dissertation. It will. So when you can have it, you can give it a space to go to and you can release that, then you can show up in a more present, a more energetic way to your dissertation. And then the last basic is write a shitty paragraph. A shitty paragraph is just a collection of 4 sentences that you decided to put together and call it a paragraph. The 4 sentences could have something to do with one another or not, but you put them together and you call it a paragraph. Think about how much further along you would be if you allowed yourself to write a shitty paragraph every day. These basics is what keeps us moving. What I ask students to do inside of the institute is like just focus on the basics. For your first month, just focus on the basics. Because I know that if you're focusing on that, you will naturally want to do the rest of this. But you need a way to manage your energy. So that was number 9. And then the last one, number 10, which I would probably argue is the most important, is do you have built in accountability to make sure that you do 1 through 9? Right? Because you might be taking notes. I hope you're taking notes, friend. If not, you need to rewatch this and write this down. But in order to do steps 1 through 9, you got to have something that is built into this process that's going to keep you accountable. And you cannot trust yourself to be the thing that keeps you accountable. There are very few people on this planet who can hold themselves accountable. And even them are like, I have these coaches, I have this team, I have this person whose sole job it is to make sure I do what I said I'm going to do. You don't get a badge of honor for being like, I did it all by myself. Because to go back earlier, I said, we can't do this by ourselves. So if that is you got a Capricorn mama like I do, or you got somebody in your life who they fixate on deadlines. And if you say you're gonna do something, they are calling you, being like, you said you're gonna do it. Did you do it? You need a type of person like that in your life. Stop trying to think that you are the one who's supposed to do that. No, your job is to be the student who is working on the plan. Their job is to help hold you accountable. Is your chair going to do some of that? Yes. But how, if you're only seeing them once a month, that's not built in a weekly accountability, daily accountability. What is going to be the thing, or who are going to be the people or the person who is going to be like, hey, you said you're going to do that. Did you do it? This is why inside of the group we meet now 3 times a week. We meet on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And so on those 3 days, I'm like, hey, how you doing on those scholar basics? You drink your water? Let me know. Hey, on Sundays, how did the last 7 days go? What did you get done? What happened? What were the obstacles? Let's work through it. What came up? What was the surprises? Let's make a plan for it for the future. What are you going to do for the next 7 days? What are you going to do for the 30 days? What are you going to do for the 12 weeks? What are you going to do for the year? Like, we're having those intentional conversations every week. On Thursday, I'm like, what's the mind thing that's coming up? What's the thing that's zapping your energy as to why you can't show up? We do that all in the group, and that is me holding them accountable. And so all they have to do is show up to the call, and I'm going to ask the question. I am tracking. Well, last week you said this, or I feel like 2 months ago you said this, right? It's because I'm tracking them that I'm able to recall these things and help them. I'm built in accountability for my clients. Who's going to be the accountability for you? So those are the 10 ways. Let me know which one is your favorite down in the chat. Um, Make sure you come and join our free community. It doesn't cost you a thing. It just costs you your presence, your brilliance. Just come in and communicate with us. And if you want to join the institute, you can also do that. All the links are in the description box. I'm gonna go have me some lunch, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.